Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dr. K's Health Kick. I've got my co-host here, Pastor C again, so she's going to be talking about sports medicine with us. And she was like asking me before we even started, so how would I even get involved with sports medicine, which is a good question, and we will definitely get to that. So for anyone joining on Instagram, we have this also live streaming on YouTube, evomm3.com, as well as Wayne Community Center Facebook page too. Feel free to send in any of your questions as we're talking along the way. You can either call in or type in the chat, whichever works for you. And so when we're talking about sports medicine, this is my focus. This is what I practice as a naturopath. So this is involving nutrition. It's involving workout plans. It's involving hydration, injury management, injury prevention, and rehab and things like that. So there's a wide range of things, and typically when people think of sports medicine, they might be familiar with Fowler Kennedy, the Western Clinic and things like that. So it's very similar to that. So it's like as if you went to Fowler Kennedy, you saw the medical doctor there, they sent you for maybe MRI, CT scan, etc., and then they refer out to their physio, acupuncture, massage. Whereas instead of having people that I refer out to, I am the one who's doing the acupuncture, massage, assessments, and determining what the diagnosis is. And if for some reason I do suspect that there's maybe a tear or something a bit more serious that might require, surgery, etc., that's when I would refer out to have a second opinion. So in answer to Pastor C's original question of, how could somebody that maybe doesn't participate in sport get involved in sports medicine as well? And essentially it seems very intimidating when you have sports in front of things. I'm actually working with somebody right now who, it's an older adult, and they're concerned with their balance. So they've had a couple of falls, and they haven't recovered quite how they would like to. So we're actually doing some rehab for that. So they had an injury, so we're rehabbing the injury and also working on prevention. So working on balance, working on what's called proprioception, which basically means that when your eyes are closed, you know exactly where all your body parts are. Okay. But sometimes what happens when you get an injury, your mind-body connection is not perfect anymore. So sometimes, it can feel a little off. And then the type of balance work that you would, work on, let's say if you rolled your ankle, you would then work on rehabbing the injury first, and then working on balance as a result of that to make sure that you don't have that recurrent problem. Yeah. So from the nutrition side of things too, people, get a little bit intimidated as well, because generally I do talk about sports-specific nutrition. But if you have a goal in mind, like let's say, you want to be able to, do a half marathon, or you want to just be able to run up the stairs without feeling out of breath, or, absolutely any goal that you want to work towards, sports medicine can help you with, because it can see where you're at and get you incremental steps into improving and feeling like you're capable of doing whatever it is. Yeah.
So for me now, what I would like to know is it a nutrition plan that we would have to follow on a continuously, or just during the process of the injury?
Mm-hmm. So it depends on the person. Sometimes the nutrition is injury based, like I might have them on a high protein for a short time, for example, or if they're training for something, like I had a sprinter before where they were in season, so they had their season where they were training for sprinting, and then they had off season, and so those plans look very different. So it is truly tailored to the goal. Yeah, and I do try not to have any sort of I don't make the plan by myself. Like I don't just come up with it and be like, here you go. I always want to make sure that I'm working with the person and say, okay, well, what are your preferences? Let's find ways to incorporate that so that you're still hitting your targets as far as what, nutrients, vitamins, minerals that you need, but also making it enjoyable because, that too ensures that you keep doing it.
So when you're working with the nutrition part of it, do you send us to a dietitian? Does the dietitian or you incorporate the plan yourself with the client?
So I do all the plans myself.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. Something that people don't generally know is that naturopaths do have to take a lot of nutrition courses over the course of our program. And my background is in kinesiology, so same thing there. And so I've just taken everything that I've learned from that, and then we're going to be talking about food sensitivity, food allergy next day we record together, but I do take that information into account as well, so that the plan truly is personalized.
Oh, wow. That's important because sometimes you want to have a plan that is geared to each individual based on their body, right? Or the complaints that they have. Yeah. So can I ask a question? When someone gets injured, how soon should they come and see you? As much as possible. How soon?
As soon as possible. Yeah, honestly, as soon as possible, because we have different ways of managing the pain right off the bat. So at the clinic we have laser, so cold laser therapy, we have acupuncture, we have massage, depending on the severity of the injury, then we might do just simple range of motion things with them. It depends. Yeah.
And then again, for some people, they've had an injury for so long, and they've exhausted every other options.
Yes.
Should that be a time too that they can still seek some help from you to see if that could be helpful?
Yeah, and that's a great question. People get so discouraged when they've had pain for years.
Yes.
And definitely I do see quite a bit of chronic pain. So people that have degenerative disc disease, so their bones in their back are starting to compress onto each other essentially. Chronic sciatic pain or just anything, knees, hips, neck, anything. And pain is exhausting in and of itself, right? It makes people, it affects their sleep, it makes them grumpy, it really does impact your whole life and how you function essentially. So absolutely, they can come in because from the injury part of it, sometimes people feel pain at a certain location, like they can be like, yeah, it's my back. And sometimes it's your back, but sometimes it's higher up, sometimes it's the glutes, so sometimes it's coming like a referral pattern from your bum. So sometimes your whole body mechanics are off and therefore making that injury worse. So these are where the assessment parts come in, where you look at how somebody walks, you look at their posture, you look at you feel the tissue itself. What does it feel like? Does it feel like muscle should be all smooth and going in kind of one direction, or is it all kind of knotted up essentially? And then do some muscle imbalances. Is there one side that's compensating more than the other? And you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people out there walking around with one leg that's normal muscle mass, and then one little leg, because the one leg is always doing all the work. Yeah. Yeah.
I can believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the youngest age that you can do sports medicine on? Is there an age limit?
That's a good question too. I personally don't see a lot of kids unless they are in competitive sport. That is generally the only time that I would see somebody that's anywhere from 7 upwards. But generally, kids are resilient. They tend to just course correct. They get hurt, they fall, and then they tend to be okay.
Yes, that's true.
Usually when I have people that have chronic pain, it's when they're in their early 20s that they've injured themselves and never taken care of it, and now it's still bothering them when they're 50. So when you're a kid, you do tend to bounce back, but once you start getting into your like early 20s, even though you still have that like invincible mentality, that is the time to actually come and get everything checked out.
Okay.
Yeah. The other piece that is important in sports medicine is hydration. So when we think about hydration, how much water somebody is having, how much they're excreting and all that type of thing. And then the factors that influence our hydration level. So we have 5 ways that we lose water. So breathing, so you can imagine that's all day, every day, hopefully, right? Talking, so if you have a job where you interact with people and you're talking all day, that's another reason that you would be losing water. Sweating, so exercise, being out in the heat, that's another reason. Urination, so pee, and defecation, so poop. So those are 5 ways that you would lose water. So people that have, diarrhea or, early signs of diabetes, like they're peeing all the time, their hydration level is going down very significantly. And then you add, people enjoy their coffee and then they have a cocktail at night. Maybe they have a black tea somewhere in the middle of the day to kind of pick them up. Those are all dehydrating factors, right? So I generally use the cup for a cup rule. So if you have a cup of coffee, then you have to add a cup of water into your day as well to balance it out. And it's not perfect by any means, but it at least has people more mindful about what is going to be dehydrating to them and what is going to be hydrating. And then I always tell people that the absolute minimum amount of water that you need just to prevent kidney stones, so not even to give you any benefits, but just to prevent kidney stones is 2 liters a day.
Wow.
Right? And that might sound astronomical to some people, right? Because if you're a person, I used to be that way. I used to drink 1 glass of water, and my mom would like harass me to drink that 1 glass of water. And then I realized, that she was right all along, as, usually that goes. But then I started, realizing, and then once you actually get up to your required amount of water, because people tend to just say, well, oh, I'm not thirsty.
Yes.
Or I don't want to pee all day, so I just can't, right? So those are 2, I guess, obstacles that you can overcome. One is that when you finally get to your optimal water level, your body will tell you as soon as you drop below. So you will start triggering that thirst signal a lot more easily and rapidly. Okay. And the other thing too is if you are maybe a 1 or 2 cup a day person, don't turn around tomorrow and drink 2 liters, okay? Because your body does not like surprises. It will revolt and you will have to pee all day. So you do have to increase very gradually. So I have people do, if you're really good at getting 2 cups in a day, then next week you're going to do 3, and the week after that you'll do 4. And if you get stuck somewhere, just stay at that water level, don't drop down, right, until you get up there. But as I say, 2 liters is the absolute bare minimum. If you have somebody like anyone who's out in the heat, like construction, any outdoor sports or anything that's going on this summer, absolutely you're going to be more than that.
Can we overhydrate?
Yes. Yes, you can. So that's a good point too, is you definitely can overhydrate, and it's kind of a mixed bag as far as like what symptoms you might feel. Because if you don't drink enough water and you're overheating, you will feel nauseous, you will feel tired, you might get a headache. Now, if you overhydrate, you will actually feel all of those things as well. Tend to be a lot higher on the nausea piece, like nausea and vomiting, so there's that. But essentially, if you've overhydrated, then have something salty and try to balance it out, essentially, because you will be throwing up a lot if you really do truly overhydrate.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to know is what are some of the symptoms when you're not hydrated enough? What are some of the symptoms that you can have?
Yeah, so dry skin, low energy, feeling hungry all the time, because our thirst and hunger signals are very similar.
Oh.
And when you eat something, you're accomplishing the same goal, right? When we think about eating, we don't really think about water, but chicken breast, for example, is 60% water. So if you eat a chicken breast, you are getting some water out of it. Not, the water that necessarily you need, but at the end, overall you're getting it, right? So those would be signs. If you, for example, you pinch your skin on your hand and it doesn't, the skin doesn't fall right back down, that would be another test. Now that would be quite severe if that was the case. It's once you start drinking water, you will start to see a difference in your skin. It'll be more like it'll be more shiny, but not oily shiny, just like more glowing. Yes, yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then the other thing that I would like to know is a question that sometimes I've been asked before. When you're dehydrated, do you pee frequent too? Do you have an urgency to keep peeing?
Well, honestly, you could.
Yeah.
You could, because in that case, like sometimes, if there's any sort of bacteria overgrowth in the bladder, urethra, anything like that, so the bladder, the sac that holds your pee, or the tube that connects from your bladder to the outside, then that can be an irritant. So if you don't have any water, filtering through all of that, yes, you can absolutely feel like the need to have urgent pee, and more frequent for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
then, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. While we're on the topic of pee, actually, the color that you're looking for is a pale, clear yellow. That's what you're looking for. So any of like that first morning pee that's like really dark yellow, over the course of the day, you want that to turn into a pale, clear yellow. Yeah. I already kind of talked about the injury rehab part of it. But as we mentioned, essentially, is that, don't feel like you can't come if you have chronic pain or an injury that's been bugging you for a really long time. It's never too late to heal, because cold laser actually is very good for stimulating stem cells, and a stem cell is a cell that you have in your body that develops into other types of cells. And if you stimulate that cell, let's say you have a joint injury or a tendon injury, it will go to help those cells heal and create new cells, essentially. So you're absolutely never too late to start healing, for sure. Yeah. There's something else I wanted to say about that. But yeah, I guess the types of injuries that I've really had this year, mostly shoulder. So after people have had shoulder surgery, sometimes the tears are just too big to heal on their own.
Okay.
So they've come in for that, just to maintain their range of motion, reduce pain after the surgery, so that they don't have to take the T3s for very long. Sciatic pain is definitely very common, and that's in people that sit all the time, or it's in people that stand all the time. It's one of those kind of tricky things, but that is definitely one. And then another one is carpal tunnel. People that tend to work with their hands a lot, hairdressers are pretty common to get it. If you work at the computer all the time, anything to do with gaming, those are instances where carpal tunnel can become an issue. And if you get it early, then that's amazing, because you can literally exercise your way out of it. When it's become, where your grip strength starts fading out, or you're not having proper signaling, then it gets a little bit more tricky. But as I say, catching things early is the key.
It's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're a person that has absolutely no injuries at all, come anyway, because we all have our patterns that we hold ourselves in, like even just like stress patterns.
Yes.
I have one person that they hold their stress in their calves actually, which is not common. The general spot people hold their stress is their neck and shoulders. You know, we all walk around like everything held up there. But that's just, everyone's different, right? We have different holding patterns, and so if you come in, then we can see where those holding patterns are. Or if you always pick up your bag with the right side, okay, well, what can we do to balance things out to make sure that, you know, over time your right shoulder doesn't start dropping down and things like that. So, yeah. The other thing too is that people are wanting to find out about, you know, workout programs and things like that. So, because of my background in kinesiology and personal training and sports medicine focus, I do make programs for people, and you can use your benefits if you have them. And currently the gym is closed, but we're doing outdoor workouts right now. So people, you know, feel free to come on and we can definitely do that. I'm just going to double check some questions in the chat here. Okay, so a person is asking, what is the cause and how to prevent muscle cramps similar to Charlie horse in the inner thigh from the knee to the groin? Okay, so a few different things with that. One, it could be hydration.
Okay.
Two, it could be just not enough magnesium in the diet. So those green leafies, you know, the fruit and vegetables that give you magnesium, because magnesium is a natural muscle relaxant. Those are oftentimes the thing, or muscle imbalances. So you're, as I say, either walking or training in a certain way that has one leg more dominant than the other. And sometimes it can be a salt imbalance, but usually those first couple are what it is.
And now that you brought that up, I have a friend that mentioned that she has, like when she goes for walks, she has burning, like a burning sensation. So she's not able to walk as frequent as she'd like to.
Yes.
What would cause something like that?
So depending on where the burning is, like if it's in the back of the leg and down into the foot, then it could be more so the sciatic nerve. If it's down the front of the leg, that's more femoral nerve. So it depends on the location. But that too could either be a holding pattern, so that, because essentially when we're walking, when I'm looking at somebody, how they walk, I want to see their pelvis moving in a figure 8. So not to, like, popular belief is that you should hold your abs really tight when you're walking and running. That's actually not true. You want to have that mobility of the pelvis, because when you hit your foot on the ground, the energy transfers from your foot all the way across your body to your arms. So people that don't swing their arms when they walk, nor do they have pelvic movement, energy is getting trapped all throughout their body, which means that they're walking very inefficiently, I guess, from an energy perspective, and then two, having muscle imbalances along the way.
Okay.
Yeah. So for your friend, it could be the shoes that she's wearing. It could be, as I say, just the posture that she's using. Sometimes people that walk with their toes out get that kind of burning feeling when they're walking. Yeah. Yeah. So
for something like that, it would be good to come and see you then to kind of truly find out what the issues are. Okay.
Yeah, it's tough when you have kind of like pain, as I say, even if it's in one spot, I always have to look above and below that area to see, okay, well, I understand that the pain is here, but, you know, is it something higher up on the chain, or is it lower down?
Okay.
Like, for example, right now I have somebody that their grip strength on their dominant hand has really gone down, but they bake all the time and they hold on to the bowl with the one hand, and they're basically having the death grip on the bowl while they're stirring with the other. So over time of doing that, like, that's a repetitive, you know, injury, right? And now it's affected their thumb. But it actually came from their shoulder, well, their neck really. That forward placement of the shoulder pressure on the nerves that travel from your neck outward, which then eventually went down the chain until they started feeling the pain at their thumb. Their thumb just happened to be kind of like the weakest link in that chain. But I wouldn't have known that had I not assessed them.
Yeah.
If I just said, oh, you have thumb pain, well, oh, maybe it's arthritis, or maybe it's, you know, maybe you like hit it on something, or, you know, I wouldn't have absolutely no idea that it came actually from the neck. And to prevent it from coming back, they have to do, you know, back exercises to correct their posture, and then they can, you know, go and work on the thumb. Yeah. Are we at a time limit, or am I still able to? I have 1 minute. Okay, perfect. So when it comes to sports medicine, don't be intimidated by the fact that it says sport.
Yes.
Think of it more so as a combination of, you know, physio, massage, acupuncture, laser, all of that just in one person, so me, just one person, that is looking at your condition from all these different angles and lenses to help you figure out what is the best way to address this concern.
Okay.
So that is sports medicine. Thank you so much for joining us on Health Kick with Dr. K. Next month, the last Friday of every month, we're going to be talking about a new topic. Next month is going to be food allergy, food sensitivity. So I hope you can join us then. And thank you for joining today. Thank you for being with me today. I'm sorry, Colin, I didn't see you waving your question. Were you waving it from over there?